Welcome to Module 5. This week we are going to continue our work in the design thinking process, moving from empathizing, defining into ideating, and we'll do some sketching and wireframing this week. And that all of that work will prepare us for prototyping, which we will step into in Module 6, and that will be our primary focus, Module 6, Module 7, and Module 8. So I want to just call attention to a few things here. And I don't know if you guys can see this activate Windows message that's over my little picture down here. And I literally cannot figure out how to get rid of it because Windows is activated. So ignore that. I have to go to IT, I guess. You'll notice right away at the top of the module, before we really get into a lot of content, that there's a group activity. And the reason why it's right away at the beginning of the module is because something that has to be done really before you can brainstorm, before you can sketch, before you can wireframe, is to figure out what are the user flows or the tasks from UX research that you're going to keep in mind as you design, because it is these tasks that are the primary functions of the site for both the client and our two user groups as defined by our client last week, stakeholders, inside professionals, and like outdoor recreational specialists, designers of those outdoor recreational opportunities. And so in order to make sure that we don't just like randomly bop around throughout the website and be like, we'll tweak a little here and we'll tweak a little there and all of that, to keep our design focused. And we are going to do some like, just consistency and branding and any other obvious friction points that you guys uncovered in your expert reviews last week, but we need to make sure that those primary functions, those primary user tasks, which technically would have been tested in usability reports, are like free flowing, no friction, right? And so, and I sometimes call these user tasks red routes. That's how I teach UX research, as I use that term because it's kind of a carryover from how I learned it. But those are like the critical red lines for the public transportation in Europe. So anyways, it's an analogy, may or may not resonate with you. But as I introduced that concept last week, in case you weren't familiar with it, your red routes or your critical tasks are, again, those primary functions that a website or product or interface can have a lot of other bells and whistles and things, but nothing can get in the way of those primary functions. And so we're looking for 6 of those, 3 for each of our 2 personas, because we have 2 primary personas, as mentioned, and you determined in your synthesis document from the previous module 4. So you now have those, you have the personas, and I believe you have some ideas of what they may be doing on the site. And I want you to write out 6 tasks that your group is going to focus on, 3 for each persona. And you're going to write them in a user story format, which I'm not sure if you guys learn in UX research. It's something that's kind of ubiquitous in UX. It's from Agile. And so in the instructions for this activity, I do very quickly teach and give you some examples of what the user story looks like. Just a 1-sentence way of connecting the task that you're going to design around to the user and why they're motivated to do that task. So where am I going with all this? You're going to do this at the beginning of the module. However, that might be early in the process for you to meet, because you have some individual work you need to do, brainstorming individually and things like that, to then meet later in the module and create some wireframes with your individual ideas and kind of like a group share. So I say you might be able to just have like a, in messaging, coordinate who's doing what on this, or maybe a quick meeting at the very beginning of the module or the week, however you want to do that, just to figure out like what your tasks are and get them written out in user story format, and then everybody move on, and then you plan for a bigger, longer meeting, at least an hour, later in the week. And I know we have fall break next week, and I'm sorry, I know I warned you at the beginning of the semester that we don't have the luxury of taking a week off because we are an 8-week class and we need every week. So you do have stuff due on Tuesday, and you will have stuff, on Wednesday, and you will have stuff open on Wednesday next week. So I just encourage you guys to get into the module early so that you can coordinate, and maybe everybody gets everything done before the weekend, so that everybody can have a week off. But of course, again, your module will open on Wednesday, so just don't forget that. But you won't have anything else due like for module 6. So once you have that clarification, then now I'm going to move you into ideating and brainstorming. You've got some reading on that, like introduction to some techniques. Then I talked to you about sketching and why that's actually extremely important. And some designers are skipping this step because you get excited to get into Figma, and I intentionally keep you off of Figma in this module to keep you using sketching and the value it brings to you as a designer. So you'll do some sketching individually. It'll look like this. And so here is your individual brainstorm and sketching activity. And so I want you to do this activity individually, every one of you, before you meet with your group. So, but after you figured out your user tasks. So again, some dancing and coordinating going on here this week. All right, then we move into just a very cursory introduction to wireframes and prototypes. I will talk about prototypes in more depth next week. And then you got a little bit of reading. I show you that wireframes can be, paper to pencil to paper. And that's the way we're going to do it this week. Sometimes we can use like Balsamiq or other like sketching. There's a lot of different sketching tools out there. We don't have the luxury in an 8-week class to learn sketching tools. And so we're not even, and I don't want you to get into Figma yet. So we're going to stick here with paper, and there's a lot of value in that anyways. Some reading and great video actually on how to very easily create a wireframe. He likes to use pen right away. I like to use pencil first and then go over my pencil with marker or Sharpie. To each their own. Ultimately turn your wireframes in that you're going to create with your groups outlined. So that's up to you how you want to do it. So once you guys have individually sketched, and sketches look like this, and you've brainstormed your thoughts on things, and it is guided, and the instructions are in the apply and submit page, then you're going to get together and you can prepare yourself for your group meeting by individually watching this video. And then this is your group activity. You're creating paper wireframes on these red routes and some other things, which I explained to you in the instructions, give you some what not to do's. And then that's it for group work this week and for work on the project. So the module is shorter, 1, because of fall break, 2, because you guys have more like the actual wireframe creation and stuff like that's going to take more time. So the content's a little bit shorter. Now, the last thing you do individually on this module is you do read an article on, a couple articles on how to give and receive feedback in design, which is really important. And that's what your journal is on this week. And then there is a summary of everything you're doing. And that's it for module 5. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And this week's tomorrow, we have that synchronous class meeting if you want to pop by and ask me any questions about the content. It's actually a different time this week from 1 until 2, because I have another appointment from 11 to noon tomorrow. So it's noted on the link for it off of apply and submit. So do take note of that if you're planning on stopping by. All right. Have a good week.